What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the BlockHash Podcast. Today, I have a wonderful guest in Daniel Keller here to talk about InFlux and some of the amazing things that they are working on, some of their products in their suite. Daniel, welcome to the show today, man. Hope your Monday's doing well. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, man, and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to get out in front of your viewers and chat a little bit about DePIN, decentralization, Web3, and what Flux is doing to bring them all together.
Absolutely. I have tons of questions about that. I know DePIN is a big thing right now. It's been floating around for a while. So a lot of questions there as well as InFlux. Before we do that, though, would love to share a little bit about who you are and what you've kind of done previously. I'm sure the audience will be very curious as well. So if you want to give us a little bit of a backstory, tell us about Daniel.
Yeah, I'm an old man in the crypto world, man. I've been in technology for the better part of 30 years. Very early adopter. Mined Bitcoin in 2012-ish. So I got into it real early, and mostly because I'm a huge disruptive technology advocate. Like, I love to see new technology challenge the old legacy system. So, was in healthcare, worked for a large healthcare organization, C-suite for them for many years, was one of the originators of Web2 as we moved to cloud, the cloud when it came out, and I was kind of helped pioneer some of those pieces. And now what I'm doing is trying to basically wreck everything that I've built for 30 years and flip everything upside down because, for the better part of 20 plus years, we worked on centralization, bringing everything together in-house. And then all of a sudden, now we're basically dismantling not only, on-prem infrastructure, Web2 infrastructure, we're pushing everything global and everything decentralized. So, I've been around long enough that I was DePIN and Web3 before they were cool.
How did you go from the mindset of want to centralize everything to decentralize everything?
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I fell down that proverbial rabbit hole. Read the Bitcoin white paper, and I was a miner very, very early on. I mean, I mined with CPUs and these little ASIC chips that we originally had at these mining farms that we built, and it really it resonated with me because I'm a cypherpunk at heart. So I've been a huge proponent for owning your own data, privacy as a human right, so on and so forth, for so long that it was just natural for me to gravitate toward Bitcoin. And then what happened around 2016, 2017, I'm sitting and I'm like, there started to be these deplatformings, and AWS decided they didn't want a project on their platform, so they kicked them off. And I was like, there has to be a better way than what we're doing current Web2, because it's completely centralized by, let's say, 5 or 6 real power holders. And really, we need to do what Bitcoin did to decentralization and make Bitcoin made you your own bank. Flux is going to make you your own data center. So that's really what it comes down to.
And is that kind of what you guys have aimed to do with InFlux, is create like this cloud type solution that maybe they can compete with what AWS, Google Cloud has done?
Everything AWS does today, Flux can do it today. So we're different than all the other products out there that are in the incubation acceleration model and blockchain. Everybody's got a white paper and a dream. Flux has a 7-year-old product that has been built from the ground up. So we used a lot of the learning curves from Ethereum and other products for scaling and so on and so forth. So we basically built in reverse. We went and got, we have 70 plus people that work for InFlux and work on the Flux project. And they're all technologists. Even our marketing team came from the technology sector. So it's a product that was built for the people by the people, from technologists who wanted to see it. Google has this old slogan that they used to use way back in the day, and you might remember it, is Google, and underneath it would say, "Don't be evil," right? And the reason they coined that is because they looked around the tech space and they said, "Wow, man, there's some shady stuff going on here. I don't necessarily like this." So they coded it in every part of their code, just about. It's now been all but removed today. So Flux's little motto is "Don't be evil" again. So at the very onset, we looked at ways that no one individual could control the network. No companies, no VCs, no early investors, no token holders. This is a proof of work product built on the Bitcoin blockchain, because it's a fork of Bitcoin. And basically what we're doing is trying to push all these DPIN products to the next phase. DPIN, healthcare, supply chain, all that kind of stuff. So it's very difficult for you to say that you're a blockchain based product and you're, DPIN if AWS goes down and your product goes down. So what we tried to do is step into that and say, look, we're gonna fix this and we're gonna make it right. Flux is global, 78 countries, 13,000 plus decentralized systems administrators, node operators. This is the goal, man. This is the holy grail. We're the biggest and the baddest and the best of all of the DPIN products out there. And I'm not saying that because it's a project, it's my project. I'm saying it because if you're listening to this and you don't go check us out and you don't feel like that at the end, there's something wrong with you, because everything we do has been developed in a decentralized manner.
So your guys' main mission is to support decentralized products and applications, in the way that Google Cloud, AWS isn't or doesn't, and to give them that backbone, essentially, that backside of the platform so that they can operate.
Yeah, and we're in some crazy times right now. You look at what's happening with ChatGPT and OpenAI and the control of artificial intelligence, right? It's input model versus output model. They want to control the input model so they can control the output models, right? They want to tell you what you're going to know that comes out of AI. Flux is the antithesis of that. We are the exact polar opposite. Open source across the board. We just recently launched our FluxEdge protocol, which allows anybody that's mining cryptocurrency can also participate in proof of use of work. Our platform that allows people to basically render AI, edge compute, so on and so forth. So all open source, all developed on the blockchain, and everybody can develop in it. So we are basically the yin to the yang of what OpenAI is.
I'm curious what your product suite looks like too. I'm sure you guys got tons and tons of different things that you guys are working on. What does that kind of look like on Flux? Some of the different things that you guys are offering.
The crazy part is when we started 7 years ago, we knew that we were going to have to build everything, because you can't really retrofit anything that's Web 2 into Web 3. Let's take, for instance, like two-factor authentication. Well, if Google has all my two-factor authentication, it's not really decentralized then. So we had to build a decentralized two-factor authentication model. We had to build like a Web3 DPIN wallet, that's Zelcore. We had to build an operating system that runs all front ends, back ends, game servers, WordPress sites. That's FluxOS. We had to build a system that would allow people to interact with their graphics cards and proof of use of work and FluxCore. FluxEdge is our enterprise piece that reaches out to enterprise customers. We just had we're just working with a large major government who wants to source a bunch of cards, right? And they don't want to pay an arm and a leg to do it. We're pennies on the dollar versus what AWS is across the board. So what's the old adage? You got to be the biggest, you have to be first, or you have to be the cheapest. Well, we are, in at least the DPIN space, all that and then some.
I know FluxEdge is a new product that you guys have as well. I see it on your shirt too.
Yeah, FluxEdge is a game changer. My presentation that I gave is said, crypto mining is changing forever, because it is. I mean, one of Satoshi Nakamoto's greatest quandaries what do we do with this, exorbitant amount of compute resources that are really just transactional validation and network consensus. And along comes Flux and says, hey, we're going to fork Bitcoin. We're going to layer our node network on top. We're going to allow people to basically use their compute resources, run till death, essentially. So if you have an old graphics card that you want to put on there, a 1070 Ti laying under your table, you can do that. And what it does is it gives a whole different dynamic to mining. And I don't know that Satoshi could have envisioned something like this, but what we're trying to do is take those compute resources, not just from Flux, but any GPU mineable asset. So if you want to mine Caspa and you want to work with FluxEdge for proof of use of work, you can do that. If you want to mine Kadena and you want to work on proof of use of work in FluxEdge, you can do that. So what really Bitcoin is about is taking financial independence and allowing people to do that. We're doing the exact same thing with Flux. We're taking and supplying compute resources to the people that need it from the people that have it. And we're fixing a massive, massive glaring issue in the tech sector today, because we're in a digital gold rush at this point. Compute resources are going to be the currency of the future, so to speak. I mean, And not really, you know what I mean? But it is going to be big and it's going to be impactful. And FluxEdge does that. It brings everybody's, whether you have CPUs or GPUs or your RAM or so on and so forth, it brings it in and lets anyone, anywhere, globally deploy on that network and utilize the network. So it's really a pretty awesome setup.
Yeah, there's another question I was going to ask you is, the FluxCloud something that is available globally, or is it only in the US, or is it restricted by region at all?
We thought about this very long and hard at the beginning, and we said we need to basically deploy this globally. So it's permissionless. You can deploy on it today. It's active today. Front ends, back ends, game servers. Anything you want to do compute resource wise, you can do it. One of the things we had to do, which is different because it's changing the paradigm how big governments and jurisdictions handled infractions in the past. With Flux, once it's deployed there, it's forever deployed there. So what it does is it switches that dynamic from a reactive environment. Somebody sees something they don't like, they send a subpoena, they get it back, and it gets taken down. With Flux, it's the exact opposite. You've got to be proactively engaged in these pieces, and that's why we're working hard with the government so they understand it as well. So we also geolocate. So if Dan wants to run, and this is huge because we've got governments that want to run this as well, but they want to restrict to particular geolocation. Flux is the only product out there that does that. Not only for Flux OS, which is all the compute resources, but FluxEdge as well. You can say, I want to run game servers. Well, I don't want to deploy a server in Europe when I'm sitting in the US. So being able to restrict that down to a geolocation by the country and even by the state and even by in some cases, even by the city. So, it's important. That way you can address those regulatory concerns almost immediately. And it's up to the user. If I'm deploying a platform, I have to understand my restrictions as well.
Do you have any restriction on the type of, clients that might want to use FluxCloud? Like, do you take on government-based different projects, or do you work, with individuals in a, maybe a residential type of capacity, or is everything commercial based, or what's the demographic kind of like?
I would say the majority of the people that are using it now are technologists, whether they're entry-level technologists or mid-tier technologists, maybe somebody that's running and what they want to reduce their overhead costs on their company. If you're paying AWS a ridiculous amount for, usage, and then you want to pull your data, good luck. You're going to get egress fees out the rear end. Flux has no egress fees. So if you don't like where you're at, you don't have to stay with us. And you can load balance between Web 2 and Web 3. And we don't have any, just because blockchain is decentralized doesn't mean it's lawless. So you have to understand what you're putting out there. Much like Bitcoin, very transparent, right? So it's not like you can deploy something nefarious out there and not get found out. So really what it does is it drives people to, we had for instance, is we had a government entity that was they wanted to do some features like some TikTok-based features, but they didn't want to spend a ton of money, and they wanted to source some cards. Well, they were one of the first people that rented cards from Flux because it was super easy. They loved it, and if they can figure it out, anybody can figure it out, really. If Dan can deploy on it, anyone can deploy on it. So, it really is amazing, how we really kind of span both those entry-level mom and pops all the way up to that enterprise piece. So, and that's what's going to make us successful in the long run, is we don't pigeonhole ourselves into any one particular place. We're very inclusive, just like Bitcoin. Michael Saylor can own BTC, and so can Dan Keller, and so can, Sally down the street here. She has some, whatever. We don't restrict. We don't air one way or the other. We build our products so anybody can deploy on it.
Do you guys have like a cap on capacity or anything at the moment?
Yeah, we built Flux for scaling on demand. So when we first stood up Flux, we had the lockups for particular nodes. We had a couple thousand nodes. Then we did a collateral halving. So basically we came in and said, okay, now, you were at 50,000. Now you're at 25,000 deploy, a node, and so on and so forth. We have 3 tiers that do. So that we built it that way because we could basically scale on demand. So as the network usage, it continues to increase, we can start to deploy more infrastructure. We can have those nodes again. The other thing is we've worked on is what's called progressive node rewards. Essentially, it's like a mining difficulty. As the demand begins to increase, so does the dollars. So people will turn more infrastructure back on because they're making a premium for launching their infrastructure. So, we feel like we have probably the best scaling solution of anybody in the space right now because we're built on proof of work. We can pull in anyone that's mining. Well, there's, let's say like, there's 20, 30, 40 million people that are mining at any given time. I mean, even Hive OS has 10 million plus rigs that are sitting on there. NiceHash has millions as well. We can tap into them because all it comes down to is the people that are deploying this infrastructure, they're just business owners, and they're going to go where the profitability is. And for us, we knew that very early on because we were all miners and we were technologists. And we said, what would we do in that case? Well, we would toggle on that proof of use of work for Flux, and we'd park our rigs wherever the hell we want. And then when you were ready to get tapped, you're pulled in and you're getting a 5x, 10x on whatever it is that you would have been mining. Now you're providing useful work.
Taking AWS and Google Cloud, if you stack them up side by side with FluxCloud, how does it compare in terms of pricing? Because I know for a lot of people, that's a big determining factor when looking for any cloud solution or virtual server in a way. What does your guys' pricing look like?
Yeah, well, we have a nice little price calculator on the website. So if you go to runonflux.io, but what I'm going to do is share, let's just say you have a middle of the road setup that you want to run. So let's say it's 4 virtual cores. We want 16 gigs of memory and 100 gigabyte of storage. Pretty mid tier. For Microsoft Azure, you're looking at about $233. AWS about $135. Google Cloud is around $323. Flux is $10.24.
That's nice.
And that freaks people out when you say that because they're like, how cheap? How can you be that damn cheap? It's because these monopolies have price fixed your compute resources for so many years that people don't even question it, right? As a chief information officer, I questioned it every damn year because when budget came around, I was like, why are these prices continuing to go up? And the products are easier. The compute is more robust, but they continue to raise the prices on me because they figured out the loophole. Corner the market, charge what you want, keep it fair across the board. Flux shatters that paradigm. It says we're not doing that. We are already incentivizing the people that are providing those compute resources by paying them in Flux, whether they're miners or whether they're node operators. And then what we're doing is we're sourcing that to people at a fair value so that they can then deploy their infrastructure. And by the way, once you're there, you're never going to leave. And by the way, here's the other kicker. If you deploy those servers on Azure, Google, or AWS, you'll get 1 instance. You'll get 3 of them with Flux. We have immediate DRP, persistent storage for your data. So these companies that are small and they can't afford necessarily a robust DRP program comes built in with Flux, right? A continuity program comes built in with Flux. So these are all the things that, it's a better value add for people because they can all of a sudden develop some things for their business that they wouldn't have been able to in the past.
I think it's great that it's so much more affordable too. Like when you see that $10 mark, you're like, oh my God, like compared to a couple $100, that's a big difference in server costs.
Yeah, we've had people reach out to us and ask whether or not it was a scam because it's so cheap. And we're like, just deploy on it and you'll see it's not a scam. 30, we'll give you your money back if you don't like it. We have a money back guarantee for everybody. If you don't like it, you deploy it, we'll give you your money back. What do we care? We're building a better product. Just tell us why you didn't like it and we'll build it better for you in the next iteration. So, really what it comes down to is we figured out a way to basically break up the big evil monopolies of the tech sector. And, by being able to allow people to source, like one of the biggest issues right now is data centers. It isn't necessarily graphics cards or anything like that. It's building the data centers that will house these graphics cards. Let's say you're averaging 11 to, 30 data centers globally, within a year's time frame. And I think that's probably being a little bit, high because they can't source it fast enough. We need about 10x that to actually get us to the next level. And the big problem is power. They can't source the power for it. Well, we already have that source. We don't need data centers where they have to be cooled and maintained and source, megawatts of power. We've got that deployed decentralized. And let me tell you something, dude. We are fast. And I'm not just talking this. We are lightning fast. Our WordPress sites are in the 100th percentile. I mean, it is ridiculous how fast we are. So, I tell anybody, if you're looking to build out your company's tech footprint, but you don't want to spend and break the bank to do it, come to Flux. That's what we're here for.
That was another question I also wanted to get into was like on your guys' back end, is it something that's similar to like IPFS where other people are kind of contributing that server power and it forms that decentralized network, or do you have like a different structure?
No, we actually built our own. It's called Flux IPFS. So we took IPFS and we we basically had to rebuild it to communicate with our node structure. But that persistent data model behind the scenes is an IPFS. But it's a little bit more robust. It almost looks more like a Kubernetes build, the way that they do their stuff. And we actually do use Kubernetes on FluxEdge and in other places. And we use Docker mostly on the Flux OS side. But you can use either one, or you can just build it on Flux, which is a version of Kubernetes, and you don't have that software cost, which is nice, so people like that as well. And really what it comes down to is we wanted to be as flexible as we could for the tech world. And we listen to what people say. And when they say, hey, I'll give you a perfect, for instance, is WordPress. A couple new updates, plugins came in, people were like requesting them. We knew that we had to add them in. And within 2 days, it was added and everybody was happy and off we go. So, I mean, I think it comes down when you have a community of involvement and you can source those resources. It's just not about compute resources. It's about the mental resources as well. Mm-hmm. So those people that are out there in the Flux community, they're all technologists. They understand what they're doing. They're very educated. I'll say this to anyone. Flux is hands down the most educated platform out there because you have to be smart to use it. I tell everybody running infrastructure on Flux is not for everyone, right? That's why we call them decentralized systems administrators. You need to have uptime. You need to meet the benchmarks. You need to have, there's just to deploy infrastructure. Now, we've made it more simplistic as we grew, and we will continue to keep doing that. But it's not for everyone. You know what I mean? There are people that just like those, win moon, meme coin, that's not what Flux does, guys. We're not the bright and shiny. We're not DeFi. We're not NFTs. We're not, what was the other one? The metaverse, whatever. That's bright and shiny stuff. What we are is we are the base layer that makes all those things possible and decentralized. So we are the gold rush. We sell the shovels, the pickaxes, the pans, the jeans to the folks that are going out there and doing the work and sourcing the gold. So that's exactly what kind of our mentality is.
So if there's individuals, groups out there, communities that want to contribute to that infrastructure for you guys, like, is there a process to go about doing that? And then at the same time, is there some type of incentive for them to contribute to Flux's infrastructure network?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like we just announced a $2 million grant for anyone that wants to start deploying on Flux, mostly educational institutions. So we'll pay you to help build out and get used to it. We supply vouchers that allow people to go out and build their infrastructure to back end. We're working with several, the University of Applied Science in Geneva, Switzerland, and other universities to start getting students involved in it, because where this really excels is these universities who need to have access to resources in the past had massive capital budgets to be able to facilitate that. They don't need that anymore. It's a game changer for them. It's not, Dan has to sign up for the data room on Saturday at 9:00 because that's all I can get. Now it's on demand whenever you want it. They provide you a voucher and you go out and you deploy on Flux. It's as easy as humanly possible. So yeah, I think there's the adoption phase. We're just starting into it now. We've been very methodical for the past 7 years not to really be one of these projects that are like, come look at us, pump the coin, this, that, and the other thing. Those projects are blockchain projects. Flux is a tech company that happens to utilize a blockchain, right? We were actually building it the way that it should be for everyone.
I was on your guys' website and I also noticed something called a Flux Marketplace. What does that entail? That was kind of interesting to me.
We have a marketplace where other people can go and deploy those Dapps. For instance, we just deployed an open office version today for people to basically go out and deploy their own Docker image and create their own, open office repository for free, right? You just have to pay to deploy the application. Full Office suite. We have game servers that are, Pal World is one of them. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones, but we have. I'm not a gamer, so I don't know. I just see them come in. but where Flux really shines is Pal World. When it launched, those servers got knocked out. And if you're a gamer, because I'm an old World of Warcraft gamer, Patch Tuesdays or whatever it was, I mean, servers were down forever. With Flux, you don't have to worry about that. When you have a launch, if you need 100 extra servers, you deploy 100 extra servers and then incrementally scale down as your launch is rolling. So what we did is we identified very early on that Pal World was struggling, and we went out and deployed 100 plus servers for them and said, here you go. We did it just to help out and watch it grow. And it worked perfectly. So, in the end, it's about, you can use Flux for so many different things, whether it's business continuity and development, technology development, scalability, on-demand scalability, which is huge. You don't have to pay an arm and a leg for a big vendor like AWS or Microsoft or anything like that.
Where are you seeing most of the demand from right now for people that are building Dapps out on Flux? Is it the Web3 gaming community? Is it enterprise solutions? I know there's a lot of different, micro niches there, but what are you seeing the most interest in, maybe the most adoption from?
Well, we see a lot of blockchain projects that want to get more decentralized, and they understand, we host Kasama and Dot and, Kadena and Caspa and all these other products that have their node networks running there, because they're not very decentralized if they're deploying all those on, a VPS server. So you see a lot of gravitation there. And then what we're really starting to see in InFlux, and no pun intended, is healthcare. Healthcare is let's say finance. Bitcoin fixed the financial dilemma, right? This was a problem that wasn't looking for a solution, right? So there was constant, rub there as Bitcoin rolled out its technology, and even now it's a political pissing match, so to speak. But with Flux and working with healthcare, they need a solution desperately. The healthcare world is absolutely antiquated in technology footprint, and they're starting to gravitate toward Flux holistically, whether it's for imaging, whether it's for dictation, whether it's for patient input models. We're seeing it all. And as a matter of fact, we've really kind of set our targets on working with a lot of the health organizations, because we don't see the rub like you do with a lot of the financial sector, right? They don't come in there and say, hey, we hate this and we hate you guys for running it. The healthcare guys are with their arms open, patting us on the back saying, please help us because we need it. So definitely there. The gaming sector is another area where we're going to definitely see a massive influx of people as they start to build out these different game sets, and people start to figure out these launches need to be seamless, and they're not. They've never been. I mean, so, for us to be able to scale up on demand, scale back down appropriately, that's going to be huge. And we're talking pennies on the dollar for what it would be somewhere else.
If someone has an app or a Dapp they want to build out on Flux, what's the best way to go about doing that?
You just go to runonflux.io and you just click on our marketplace and you go. As long as you have a Docker image of whatever you're trying. And that's why people say, well, if I want to build on Flux, what code language do I need to do? We don't care. You can build it in Python, Java, JavaScript, whatever. Get it to a Docker, get it deployed on Flux. If you can build a Docker of it, you can deploy it on Flux. And by the way, there's super convenient tools for helping you build your Docker and everything and deploying it. We've had people that have never done it before. We had a guy that's running 40 plus websites right now, and he just went wild. Once he figured it out, he was just launching everything that he could. So I think in the end, we want to make it as easy as humanly possible for the folks that are developing in Web 2 to traverse to Web 3 very seamlessly. Because if it feels clunky or it sucks, they're not coming back, right? So we had to make sure it was right out of the gate. And that's why we've taken so long. People say, well, why have you taken 7 years to get to this point? Because we wanted it to be legit. If somebody comes in and wants to use your product and they have a bad feeling, they'll never come back again. So we made sure that when we built it out, they had a feeling just like they were using Web 2. It was cheaper. It was faster. It was decentralized. Hey, this is a win across the board.
In terms of, things you guys maybe have coming up on your roadmap, this year, what are some things maybe that you're excited about with Flux, that most people don't know about yet or aren't aware of, or that you think people should have their eye on, going into the second half of this year?
We have a lot going on. We'll get our Flux Edges in alpha right now. We're getting ready to move that to beta. To call that an alpha is a disgrace. It was a release candidate in every other world. But we're so particular about how we do things. We want to make sure we iterate effectively and involve our community in the process. So the release of FluxEdge, the release of Flux Core and its final release candidate and within the second half of this year is what we're really looking forward to. And that gives us the ability to really go get the heavy hitters. I definitely think you could see somebody like X running, residual overflows on Flux, or even a Chat GPT. They ran out of graphics cards the other day. You could definitely see somebody like NVIDIA. We're actually a graduate from the NVIDIA Inception program, which was pretty awesome. NVIDIA worked with us on that. We have some cool stuff coming up with them as well. And side note, AMD is ready to bring the house, and they like Flux. So I think we're going to see some really competitive stuff coming up in this second half. And I definitely think you could see us working hand in hand with an AMD, maybe even a NVIDIA down the road. There's plenty of products out there. And look, we are a jack of all trades, and we are mastering them all too, because you know what I mean? We can easily plug into just about anything. We're all API driven across the board. So if you have a product that you want to source good compute resource for, you could do it right in Flux. You can do that today.
Yeah, man. And I think you're doing something that's, very worthwhile too. You're building out, a solution for these decentralized applications that's going to be highly sought after, not just today, but, going to the future as this industry continues to expand and get bigger and bigger. And you see other industries merge with the Web3 space. Having something like FluxCloud is going to be invaluable in so many ways. And it's cool to see, the product suite that you guys have, and FluxEdge and the cloud, and all these different things that people are going to be able to take advantage of and actually use. So, good job, man, putting all this stuff together. Like this is really cool stuff. I know a lot of projects that are probably going to be very interested in probably moving away from the traditional Google Cloud, AWS situation, and maybe wanting to do this. Even the prices alone are incredible too. My goodness.
Yeah.
That's what gets me.
And we're very crypto friendly. Flux is the asset that makes the world go round. So whatever you're doing in the Flux world, even you can deploy with PayPal. Oh, by the way, we're the only fiat provider out there as well. So you can pay in crypto, you can pay in fiat. That fiat is immediately converted to Flux. So every single component in this ecosystem requires Flux. You want to deploy nodes, you need Flux. You want to mine, you're going to need to have, you need to mine Flux. You want to run on FluxEdge, you're going to pay in Flux. Even if you use fiat, you're paying in Flux. So we built literally the king of all utility assets. And I even think, to be honest with you, I think down the road, especially with compute resources, I think you can see a futures market for that as a commodity. I mean, we've seen it with power. We've seen it with, regular products. I don't see an issue with it, seeing it as a commodity, as people to being able to, basically source that. So I think we're in for a really wild ride, and I think it's just getting fired up. This is what we've lived for 7 years, and I'm really excited to see it get to the next level.
Where's your community at? I mean, I'm curious if they're as energetic as you are. I'm not sure that vibe carries over, but where can we find them? Like, if we want to delve into the Flux community and interact with people.
I'm mild compared to our community. No, we have a very vibrant community, and most of the people that are in the community have been there from the beginning because they're putting a vested interest. They own the company, so to speak. I mean, they own the product, so they feel that what they're providing is their investment in long term. Whether you're mining or running nodes or providing infrastructure, whatever the scenario is. But we have a global community. I mean, we are literally everywhere. If you go to the Run on Flux and you go to the home.runonflux.io, which is our marketplace, and you go to the statistics, there is nowhere on that map that isn't covered by infrastructure. So and they're very vibrant. They're very engaged. I would say maybe only your Bitcoin maxis would probably be more like tribalistic and territorial, but we're very inviting. And as a matter of fact, we work with other projects that are doing the same thing in this space. We don't look at other projects as competition. We look at them as opportunities. Perfect, for instance, is, we recently announced that we were going to add the Akash marketplace to the Flux marketplace. Why were we doing that? Because they have access to H100s, and we want to be able to source those for our customers as well. So easy symbiotic relationship between the two. But you could see products like a Dynex or a Chlor AI, or even a Together AI scenario could even be in there as well. So we really just want to be the marketplace for everybody to come and shop their compute resources. And we don't really give a crap what you're doing on, if you're providing a good product, we're not tribalistic. We're very inviting for that. So,
I mean, look, man, this has been a fantastic episode. And guys, if you're watching this episode, make sure to go check out runonflux.io, learn more about Flux, all their products, what you can use, how to build applications. Dude, this is fantastic. I'm very excited to see how this continues to develop out, and, how different niches, I think, within the Web3 space continue to use you guys as a cloud service, and some of the other partnerships and, collaborations you guys put together down the line. If there's anyone out there that does want to, partner, collab with you, work together, is there a way to reach out to you and get connected?
Oh, absolutely. You can hit us up at info@runonflux.io. If you're interested in developing something and you need compute resources, you want to tap into that $2 million grant, hit us up. Just give us a kind of overview of what you're looking to do, and we'll make sure you get the coupons to be able to deploy whatever you need to deploy. Join us on Discord. We have a very vibrant Discord. You can follow us on Twitter @RunOnFlux. If you want to hear the rantings of an old crazy man, which is my Twitter, which is @DAK_Flux. And we also have what the hell is that thing called when it has all your links? Linktree. It has a link tree on our Flux page as well. So have a great Telegram group, and you name it, we're there. So we're very involved. If you come into Discord, you're probably going to talk to me, or you'll talk to any one of the team that specializes in your questions. So we want you to come in. We want you to participate, and we'll even pay you to get your hands dirty and start to build something out.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you in the Discord, man. This has been a great episode. Thank you for taking the time to come on. Really do appreciate it. Flux, you guys are doing some great stuff. Keep me updated on it, and let's do this again soon in the near future.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on.